Hey, it's Sol, and today we're going to cover a different side of professions in Dragonflight, a side that'll hopefully make you a crap ton of gold. Hopefully they got your attention. Hit the like button, subscribe for more content, and to be perfectly honest, I don't know if this approach to professions will make gold, but it is worth highlighting. There are a lot of folks, including myself, that have given plenty of attention to the end point of crafting, as in the fun stuff, the mythic level crafts, and, flamethrowers. But these are made with not just ore and skins and herbs, but with parts, the components that are made from these materials that, by themselves, they don't do anything, and it's easy to overlook. In order to get that high quality weapon or whatever it is, the crafter will need to specialize into that recipe to have the necessary skill. However, that's only the half of it. They also need to have high quality materials, and early in the expansion, a crafter can't spec into both, making the parts and the final product. This is the part that you can decide to play, a master in the steps of production. Now, you might not be able to make the cool thing at the end, but you will play a part of a shrewd dealer who turns low quality materials into critical, high quality parts that crafters need. I'm going to go over each profession, but not enchanting. Enchanting doesn't use parts, so you're not going to hear about that here. So we're going to start with alchemy. I'll try to be detailed in this section to get you familiar with how I'm explaining things, and then we'll speed things along across the other professions. Omnium Dracronis and Primal Convergence are reagents needed to make the alchemy trinket and the most powerful alchemy potions, including a cauldron that produces such potions. This is an endgame craft, and it will require you to specialize almost fully into this, unless you want to rely on inspiration procs to give a boost to your high quality success rate. By specializing into alchemical theory, you can increase your skill levels, resourcefulness, and inspiration stats against these recipes to get as close to creating rank 3 reagents as you can, relying on inspiration to make up the difference. You'll notice that I'm not using any profession equipment here because I kind of forgot about it, but anyway, it adds about 20 or so skill points and also important secondary stats such as inspiration or multicraft. As a parts crafter, you may want to switch between stats, meaning needing multiple tools. This applies to anyone focusing on parts. It's very important to point out, when it comes to the parts needed for these endgame crafts, that high quality is critical for high quality most of the time. It goes hand in hand with specializations, so if your server happens to have a bunch of armor crafters but no one is spec'd for alloys, the server is going to be relying on the auction house to fill the gap, and that might not turn out so well in the long run. Speaking of blacksmithing, let's move on to that as well as the other armor professions, tailoring and leatherworking, because they work at least kind of similarly. Blacksmiths can make alloys, which are then used for high-level crafts. It's not a small amount of alloy either. They're going to need over 10 of these alloys, all at high quality, in order to make a rank 5 crafted piece of gear, especially if you want customized stats, increased item level, and an embellishment. Parts crafting smiths will need to spec into 2 branches, specialty smithing and hammer control, to get the necessary skill level, and they can invest further into resourcefulness to hopefully save some materials, or inspiration procs. It's important to note too that not all recipes care about quality. For example, this pet needs 6 of these kinds of alloys, but well, pets don't care about what quality does, so don't worry if you're not able to make the best quality parts right away. Someone is going to find a use for them. Leatherworkers will have double the clientele since they craft leather and mail patterns, as well as permanent leg enchants. Those are coming back in Dragonflight. As a parts crafter, it'll interest you to spec into leatherworking discipline for the base skill points, but then you'll be making choices under the primordial leatherworking tree. Parts crafters can specialize in elemental, decayed, or bestial patterns to make high quality hides and scales. With this many choices, I'm gonna shy away from trying to tell you which is the best route to take. Tailoring is where we can start looking at multiple stages of production because of how they deal with cloth. Tailors can collect cloth from mob drops or the auction house, and they can unravel them and turn it into useful thread, used in most tailoring recipes. Specializing for this sounds kind of hokey, but if the market runs short, you might be the only person who can provide this high quality part. This can be mastered through the tailoring mastery and textiles tree. I bet most crafters will skip that and go for crafting bolts for higher end crafts. In that case, you want to skip out on spinning and go for bolts. And you can go even deeper by specializing in either Azure Weave or Chrono Cloth bolts. These special bolts are used for high-end crafts, but can only be made in a limited quantity before incurring a cooldown. Speccing into either will let you craft as much as 3 times the amount than if you didn't spec for it. Inscription is where things get really interesting and complicated. because there are numerous stages of production, from pigment to inks to chilled runes to runed wraith bark. It starts with milling, and you can spec into that too. It's here especially that you'll notice while the very best recipes can guarantee maximum quality if you have the points for it, the parts for said recipes are not guaranteed to be made at max quality no matter what you do. In those cases, milling being one example, it's definitely important to invest into inspiration. However, notice that the ink here does not have a very high recipe difficulty at all. One could make rank 3 ink at a very low skill level with low level pigment. Now maybe this is an oversight or a bug in part of the WoW team, and it could be readjusted before Dragonflight goes live, so keep an eye on this. But it just goes to show you, pay attention to recipe difficulty. Some parts are easier to make than others. Specializing heavily into rune mastery, maybe ignoring understanding flora, will get you really close to making parts for scribes at max quality. With this, you can use rank 1 herbs to make rank 3 late game parts for hopefully some good returns. Jewelcrafting, like Inscription, is hungry for materials. The better quality ore you get, the better quality gem. You can guarantee rank 3 cut with a rank 3 gem, or you can buy up cheap rank 1 gems, and then you can cut them and hope for the best with inspiration procs. JC can also make numerous reagents used in other profession recipes. Investing into Jeweler's toolset mastery and enterprising will help you make the best quality parts at the lowest price that you can get away with. Finally, engineering creates numerous parts called parts, good for them, that use a lot of ceravite ore. This profession will be burning through thousands of ceravite to make bolts, fuses, and other parts in order to make their ridiculous contraptions. Basic parts are pretty easy to make, but these parts are used to make more complicated parts and are far more difficult to make at high quality. Engineers are going to find themselves wanting for high quality parts for their tinkers and gear, and they're going to rely on engineers who are invested into the optimized efficiency and mechanical mind trees to find what they need. The moral of the story is that crafting is a much more involved process than in previous expansions, and early on no two crafters are going to be the same. People who race to craft epic items will rely on parts crafters to provide materials. Parts crafters will rely on the demand for said epic items. Now, I did leave out a ton of details, like where some of these recipes come from, profession equipment, and more, but more than anything, I wanted to give you an idea of what's coming, a bit of a mental prep, so when Dragonflight does go live, you don't feel too overwhelmed. And I hope this helped. Please like the video if it was helpful, subscribe for more content, and I'll catch you later. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.